I'm gonna teach you how to get more sales through systems. That's the bottom line. That's what it boils down to. And I'm gonna break it all down. My name's Preston. I'm the owner of the 30% Rule. And basically what I do is I help your restaurant get more sales through systems. That sounds really broad, and it is. That's because I just try and simplify it, because there is a process here, but it works. It's proven. So I spent the last 10 years helping corporate restaurants open other locations and fix other locations. So basically they'd send me to a location that was ailing, and I would turn it around through training and systems. And that would fix culture, that would fix customer retention, and ultimately sales. And now I'm helping independent restaurant owners, instead of big corporations, learn those tools that they don't have access to in order to get the sales that they want. I was opening a lot of restaurants and I was having fun doing it. And I remember specifically I had an epiphany. I was opening a restaurant in Waikiki, and I remember I was really bummed out. I should have been having fun, I should have been enjoying myself, but I was really down. And I didn't know why. And then I realized that I knew that the restaurant was doomed. And not doomed to failure, but doomed to not succeed to its full potential. Doomed to ail. After opening restaurants for so long, I had seen them fail. I had seen the problem. And up until that point, I thought it was management, I thought it was training, I thought it was employees. But then I realized it wasn't that. It was the lack of systems. Because for some reason, restaurant owners will go all in on furniture, on aesthetics, on the menu, on food, but they won't go all in on employee training, systems, culture. They won't go in on all that for some reason. And it's not necessarily their fault. The problem is that we're working off of systems that were created in the 70s. I'm gonna teach you how to create an amazing hospitality experience that you can implement into your restaurant and then keep it consistent with systems. Someone walks into your restaurant one day and gets amazing hospitality experience, and they walk in the next day and don't get the same hospitality experience, then you're not offering them hospitality. You're offering them confusion. And they're gonna leave and never come back. So real quick, let's just go over this real quick, okay? Hospitality and service, those are two different things. Service is a business transaction. Hospitality is an art form, okay? It's an experience, okay? So service, you can get anywhere. You can get at Denny's, you can get at McDonald's. They give you service. They check the boxes. They say, thank you, have a nice day, would you like fries with that? Your total, they collect your money. That's service, it's a checkbox. Hospitality is an art that takes strategy in order to create. So you want a strategy involved of why they're getting what they're getting, why you're offering what they're offering. Everything has intent, and everything's built to get the guests to come back. Everything's built to get the guests to tell their friends and family about what just happened, the experience they just went through. Everything's built for them to leave a review online. And when they do all those things, that creates more customers. So it turns one customer into three. And that's the goal you're gonna have. That's a goal your whole restaurant's gonna have, every staff member's gonna have, and you're gonna train them to have that goal in mind. Your goal when you walk in the door is to make every guest that walks through that door a loyal repeat customer, a loyal repeat guest. So every person has that goal, every staff member, not just the servers, not just the bartenders, every staff member. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how, but just remember that. We want hospitality over service. Restaurants that have systems and consistency in place have a 70%, on average, 70% retention rate. Restaurants that don't have a hospitality experience and don't have consistency, 25%. What do you want? Do you want 70% customer retention rate or 25%? And just a couple little facts here. Shake Shack started off as a hot dog stand in New York, multi-billion-dollar company. The owners came out and said, we emphasize on hospitality, not service. We teach our staff hospitality, not service. That's how it became a billion-dollar company. Not because they have a billion-dollar burger, because they have a good product and consistent hospitality. Winner. The Cheesecake Factory started in a basement in Detroit. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. How'd they do it? Hospitality through systems. They have over 150 menu items. They all are made from scratch. How do they achieve that every single day, every single night? Systems. They have systems. That's the only way they can do that. Chick-fil-A, $18 billion company, family owned, still, till this day. How did they do it? They have systems with hospitality. Chick-fil-A hired Ritz-Carlton trainers to come create their hospitality experience for their front of the house staff. A lot of people tell me, hey, Preston, I have a restaurant, our check average is $20, or I have counter service. I don't need a hospitality experience. Why not? See, a hospitality experience isn't a guy wearing white gloves with a white linen over his forearm and a French accent. A hospitality experience is something where you just exceed the guest expectations, it's on brand, and it's consistent. That's a hospitality experience. Okay, you connect with the guest, you make them happy, and you subconsciously earn their trust. When you earn their trust, they will be a customer for life. But you have to earn their trust, and more importantly, and even harder, you have to keep it. Because keeping their trust is the hardest part. You can spend years gaining their trust. One bad experience will break their trust. It's a mindset shift for you and your staff. You guys are all gonna have to have a mindset shift. It's no more about coming into work, clocking in, doing your job, clocking out. It's all about turning every guest into a loyal repeat guest. That's what it's all about. We're gonna tackle that and make sure it happens. First, we'll talk about the experience, okay? So I walked into a mentors of mine restaurant one time, and I got hired, and I walked in, and there was like a painting on the kitchen, and it was just like kind of out of place, random in the kitchen. It looked like a wave, and then I asked him what it was, and he said, that's our hospitality experience. It's mapped out. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really understand what that is. And he's like, how could you possibly control and understand your hospitality experience if you don't have it mapped out, if you don't have a bird's eye view of it? So he's like, the reason I map it out is to show everybody their place, to show everybody what they're doing, and how they affect other people, how important they are on the hospitality journey. Usually in a restaurant, the servers think they're the most important, the bartenders think they're the most important, but everybody's intricate. Because if one weak link is there, it'll ruin the experience. So everyone needs to see how important their part is and how it affects other people and what their part is. Managers can better manage a hospitality experience when they see it from a bird's eye view. People can understand it better when they're doing their job. So there's a million reasons why you should have it. So I recommend doing that, mapping out a hospitality experience. You want to start with when they walk in. Who's the first person they see when they walk in, right? Okay, they're gonna see the host, okay? So they see the host. What does the host do? Well, you're gonna put all of her, is she gonna wave? That's what I recommend. Host walks in, she waves. Hi, how's it going? Hey, hi guys, how you doing? Making eye contact, making connection. When you wave at someone, right away they're gonna get taken aback. Waving at me? What? Oh, hi, how's it going? That breaks that mold of, hi, how are you? Welcome to Modern Restaurant. Can I, do you guys have a reservation? Awesome, thank you. Okay, it's gonna be about 5 more minutes. You mind waiting there? Thank you so much. We'll be right with you. That breaks that mold, that makes that personal connection. So anyway, you wanna make those personal connections, then where do they go? Well, they have two options, right? They're either gonna go to their table, which is a server, or the bartender. They're gonna go to the bar to get a drink or eat, all right? So now we're gonna put what the server does. What does the server do? What are his roles in order to turn the guest into a loyal repeat guest? What are his roles? We're gonna put that there. What are the bartender's roles? We're gonna put there. Well, now that they're at the table with the server, are they only dealing with the server? Probably not. So, well, who else are they dealing with? Food runner and busser, right? What are their roles? What are they doing? What is their role, and how are they gonna make it so that these all match? A lot of times you go to a restaurant, attitudes don't match, right? The service doesn't match. Because you walk in, the person getting your tip has an awesome attitude, loves you, right? Great experience. But this person, even though they're getting part of your tip, they don't have the same attitude, right? Because they're not trained that way. This guy doesn't. And I remember thinking, God, I have this server who's super poised, puts things down. How you guys doing today? And then I have a busser who's like, are you guys done with that plate? Okay, cool. And then he picks it up, the fork falls off onto the table. Sorry about that. He grabs it. It's like how are these two employees trained by the same people? Because they seem like they have completely different ways of approaching the table and handling service. The server was great, but these three people weren't. When you have it mapped out like this and you have the mindset shift that everybody's here to turn every guest into a little repeat guest, that changes. But when you're not talking to these people about that, when you're just telling them, make sure you bust the table as fast as you can, make sure you run the food out as fast as you can, then that's what they're gonna do. Their focus isn't to appease the guest. Their focus is to strictly do their job that you tell them to do, okay? So anyway, if you're at the bar, who else are you gonna deal with at the bar? You're gonna deal with the bar back, most likely, okay? So the bar back has his roles, and then either they go back here or they leave, right? So they leave. And then hopefully at one point they may talk to a manager, and the manager has to have his roles, and that's how you map it out, okay? You map it out on something like this, something big, you write it out, or you just do it on the computer and then you print it out big, and then you hang it up on the wall. So every time someone walks in, they see it, they look, they're gonna know their role. They're gonna know exactly what they're gonna do, what they're supposed to do. And even the server might go, oh, I didn't know the hostess had to do all that. Or the busser might go, I didn't know the bar back had to do all that. Or the food runner might say, I didn't know the bartender did all that. Or the bartender might say, I didn't know the food runner did all that. Or I didn't know that was his role. Now I understand his role. Now when I run food as a bartender, if I go in the back of the kitchen, I have to run food, I'm gonna start doing this stuff when I drop off the food at the table. That's how you create a cohesive experience. So everybody's the same. So map out your experience. So in a successful restaurant, consistency is king. First, you have to have product, right? You have to have a good product. If you have bad product, if you have bad food, bad drinks, bad ambiance, if your place is falling apart and it smells, whatever, you're not gonna be successful. So the first step is you have to have a good product, right? You're gonna have to have consistency. That's what's next. You have to have consistency. Then you have to have the hospitality, okay? That's the next step. Then you have to have the staff, of course. And then you have to have systems. And that holds everything together and makes everything consistent. That connects everything together. Okay, so you have to have all these things in order to have a successful restaurant. So if I pull this out, it's like Jenga. If I pull this out, it's falling, it's gone, it's done. Now, if I pull this off the top, you're saying, well, Preston, if I pull off the systems, well, this is connected to everything. So again, imagine if you're playing Jenga and there's just a piece of tape that's taped on the side and you pull that off, it's just gonna all fall. So they're all connected. You have to have all of these things to have a successful restaurant. There's no other way about it. Sure, you could have a good product, maybe not hospitality, maybe not systems, let's say. You could try and do that and you'll last for a while until you don't. It's going to inevitably fail. Or you're just gonna coast. You're just gonna make enough money. You're gonna make just enough to make ends meet. So that's the difference. Let me give you an example of how important consistency is, okay? So I had this Thai restaurant I used to go to all the time, and I loved it. It was my favorite spot to go to. They had the best pineapple fried chicken I've ever had till this day. So I had moved out of the area, and I hadn't gone there in months. And I was in the area, and I decided to stop by and eat. And I sat down, and the service was slow, unprofessional, and the food was off. I realized they must be under new ownership or new management. But either way, gone. It had gone downhill. I'm not coming back. And after that, I would talk to people. I mean, we're talking about like a year goes by. And I'm talking to people, and every now and then they'd bring up that Thai place, and I'd be like, oh man, I went there. It was downhill. Don't go there. It had new management, new ownership, something. Something's off, but they're done. Like they dropped the ball. When people wanted to meet me there, I would just tell them like, let's go somewhere else. That place isn't the same. And so about a year later, I had a friend that wanted to meet me there. And I told him the same thing. I said, let's not go there. The place isn't the same. And he goes, well, I just went there the other week and it was perfect. It was great. And I was like, really? So I was like, all right, let's try it out. So I went back there and it was exactly the same in a good way. It was exactly what I remembered before. It was perfect. Service on point. Food was on point. And I had asked the server, I was like, is there new management or ownership that had happened in the last year? And they'd said no. And I realized it was all in my head, because I had that bad experience and it was so jarring from the good experience I had that logically the only thing I could think of was it was under new ownership, because that's how bad it was. That's how jarring it was. And that's how powerful consistency is. I was confused because I just didn't understand why everything was so different. And the only logical thing I could think of was something drastic had happened, like ownership change. Warren Buffett has a great quote. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about that, you'll do things differently. And that's the truth. A reputation, loyal repeat customer you have, everything can get ruined by one experience. So that's why you have to have consistency in order to solve that problem. Any successful restaurant in the world is consistent all the time. Another good way to look at this and understand consistency is in a book called The E-Myth. And in The E-Myth, the author talks about the burnt child syndrome, which is a study. And it basically talks about, as a child, if you punish a child and reward a child for the same behavior, the child gets confused and doesn't understand what to do. And that's the same thing with the customer. If the customer gets rewarded for the same behavior, hey, I'm gonna come in and reward you guys with my business, reward you guys with my money, but you punish them or you reward them with good service or punish them with bad service, they get confused like I did and they don't know what to do and they don't come back, because a child cannot pick their parents, but a customer can pick where they spend their money, and they're not going to spend it there. They'll go down the street, even if it's more expensive or the food's not as good, they'll still go where it's consistent, because people want to know what they're going to get. Who doesn't? Who wants to go into a business transaction and not know what they're going to get? Nobody. You don't want to do that. How do you achieve high level consistency? I've come up with a formula. In the 20 years I've been in the hospitality industry, this is what I used. In the 10 years I was helping corporations turn around restaurants, this was my success, my key to success. And it's intentional training, high-level systems, mastering culture, and effective leadership. Those 4 things. Effective leadership, mastering culture, high-level systems, intentional training. Those 4 things put together will equal consistency in your restaurant, guaranteed. A successful restaurant is fueled by great culture. Great culture is fueled by leadership. Your leadership has to be there. Your leadership is everything. You cannot have good culture without good leadership. That's it, bottom line. And I've worked in so many restaurants, I've seen so many different managers, and I've seen a lot of them. More bad than good, unfortunately. That's just the way of the world in the restaurant industry, because people are human, and when they get power, they start changing and start doing things that are questionable. But it's the biggest problem I see. Managers on power trips, managers not listening, managers creating toxic work environments, and it ruins company culture. It just completely decimates. So you really want to be picky with your leadership, and you want to stay on top of them. When you see red flags, address them. If they can't be addressed, you need to move on, because that will cost you more money than anything. Here's another good quote from the E-Myth. This is the question that you want to answer as a good leader. You want to always be trying to figure out the answer to this question, and once you do, you're going to have a key to a very, very good culture in your restaurant that you as a leader are cultivating. How can I most easily provide the guest with the most amazing experience, and at the same time, give my employees responsible for the work the best possible experience? So, in other words, how do I give the guests what they want and my employees what they want, which is a good work environment? How do I give my guests a great experience and my employees a great work environment at the same time? Because if you figure that out, there's a winning combination. If your employees aren't happy, then it's going to show in their service, no matter what. I'm sure they can fake it till they make it, but no matter what, there's going to be an underlining something that they're going to know that there's just something a little off in this restaurant. I've seen it all the time. So have you. You've gone to a restaurant where you're like, the restaurant's nice, the food's good, the service was nice, but something's off. And that's what it is. It's culture. Because no matter what, people are people, and they exude what they're feeling. To make myself a good leader and cultivate a good culture, because I knew that was everything. And I could not lead, and I could not properly train and help restaurants if I couldn't be a good leader. And so these are the rules I got. So rule number 1, always show respect, okay? This is so important. The problem I see a lot of managers think that they have something better going on than their employees do. But the truth is, you guys are both equal, whether you like to admit it or not, whether you like to realize it or not. You have to treat them like a human being, and that's the most important thing. And I always use this rule of thumb, it's cliche, but treat them like they're your family. How would you want your family to be treated in that situation? How would you want someone in your family to be treated by a manager at their job? So show your employees respect, because if you don't show them respect, then they can't respect you. If they can't respect you, they can't trust you. If they can't trust you, they're not going to work for you. They're not going to listen to you. And other employees pick up on it. So always show respect. Always keep your composure. This is a big one, okay? Like, you work in the restaurant industry, you know what I'm talking about. High tension, high stress all the time. And on top of that, you're dealing with a lot of human elements. You're dealing with your customers, you're dealing with employees, you're dealing with your bosses. It's easy to snap. But as a leader, you can't. You just can't do it. Number 3, put the restaurant first. Always put the restaurant first. Put your pride and ego aside and put the restaurant first. What's best for the restaurant? That's all you got to ask yourself. So when you're dealing with an employee, you're dealing with a customer. Sometimes the customer has an attitude. Sometimes the employee has an attitude. Whatever it is, or sometimes an employee is just trying to help and give you their feedback. Goes really well with when you're handling employees, right? If you're gonna see an employee doing something they're not supposed to be doing, best not to address that during the shift. Because again, what's best for the restaurant? If you address it during the shift, that might upset them. That might have them give bad service to someone else. Someone might see the interaction and get uncomfortable, one of the guests, if the employee doesn't handle it well. So just wait till the end of the shift, pull them aside, and then talk to them about it. After everything's closed in the office, that's the point when you want to talk to them about it, or before they leave. But don't do things in front of guests that'll make the restaurant look bad. And again, when you hear ideas from employees, try and take them. The why, not the what. So when you're leading, always give people the why. Don't tell them the what. Don't say, go do that. Explain to them why they need to do that. Try and guide them to that answer. But just always be leading with why. Explaining things. Why are we doing this? You know, I understand that this seems annoying. This process seems annoying, and trust me, I get it. I get annoyed doing it sometimes too, but understand we have to do that part because of X, Y, and Z. And if we don't accomplish X, Y, and Z, then we're missing the mark. We just really need to do that, and I need you to be on board. Is that something you can get behind? Is that something you can help me do? Okay, so I got you. You got me? You're gonna do that? Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. And so when you give people the why, it makes them feel much more motivated than just do that next time. You know that's your job. Why aren't you doing your job? So the why, not the what. Practice what you preach. This is huge. Practice what you preach. You cannot be telling people to do things and then not doing them and then just telling them that you're the boss, they're the employees, that you can do whatever you want, or that you don't need to explain yourself to them. If you're going to tell people to do something, you have to be able to do it yourself, or you have to be able to not do the opposite, at least. But yes, you should be doing everything that you're preaching. You should be in a living embodiment of what you want from your employees. They should see it. They should see you doing it, even if it's just attitude-wise. Keeping your cool, staying professional. Trust is important with company culture. In order for people to trust you, you have to be a person of your word. You have to do what you're asking people to do. Ownership. Take ownership. If you mess up, say you messed up. Tell people you messed up. If you're talking to an employee and you realize you're wrong in this situation for whatever reason, stop and say, you know what, you're right, I'm wrong, my bad. But always take ownership. People respect that immensely. Your staff's going to respect that immensely. But if you've ever worked for a boss, or you've ever been in a relationship, or had a friend that always had to be right no matter what did you think about that? How did you feel when you were around them? How did you feel when you were talking to them, when you were in an argument with them? Okay, so your employees are going to feel the same way. If you're sitting there always arguing, saying that you're right, they're wrong, and you're never admitting when you're wrong, that's not the way to go. You have to take ownership. Or if you hey guys, listen, we got busy last night. It was actually my fault because I understaffed. Let's next time in the future do X, Y, and Z to try and combat my mistake, because I'm gonna make mistakes, but I still need you guys to be on board. But as long as you're admitting, taking ownership of when something was wrong, you'll have the respect. But you gotta do it, you gotta practice it. You work for your staff, okay? Remember that, you work for your staff. So what does that mean? So some of the best business CEOs in the world that have the best company culture, that's the motto they take. I work for my staff. So what do they need from me? They ask me, what do they need? What tools can I give them? What service can I provide to make sure they can do their job as best they can? Because I work for them. You have to work for your staff. You have to give them the tools. You have to be there for them. You have to be able to run drinks or run food or bust a table. But more importantly, you have to give them the tools they need to succeed. So whether that's systems like we talked about earlier at the very top, providing systems for them, or making sure things are stocked up, or at least informing them when they're not stocked up, all that stuff, all that communication, just to make sure by the time they start their shift, they're 100% ready to take on anything and they don't get caught off guard. And they have your support. So when it gets busy, you're there helping them and they know they can count on you. You gotta be the leader that you wanna be, and you gotta earn their respect. And so always be thinking, I work for them, let me go ask them what they need for their shift, what I can do. That will earn their respect, and you're gonna see it show through with profits. So listen, this is one thing I want to address, and I kind of talked about it earlier, but it's always important, of course, out of all this, is the whole goal isn't to be a pushover. The whole goal isn't to be the cool boss, but it is to be accessible, understandable, and compassionate. The big thing is you need to be taken serious still. That's important. Let your staff know that you're not going to put up with any BS. So if something goes wrong, you need to address it, but you always want to try to address it after the shift. Unless it's something crazy happening where you have to address it right away because it's just like, it's gonna cause a customer to freak out or something like that. You wanna handle it after the shift. What I do is I kept a notebook and I'd literally write everything down that I saw wrong. At the end of the shift, I'd look and I'd say, okay, do these things really need to be addressed? How important are they? And then I would only address the things that were important. I put everything else in the shift notes so it's documented. And then I would say at the end of the night, hey, Dan, can I talk to you in the office? Hey, Dan, listen, overpouring all night. Listen, I get it, it happens, but it's really important that we don't overpour because our liquor sales are through the roof right now. So I'm giving you a warning right now. You need to not overpour. Next time it's gonna be written, and then third's gonna be disciplinary. If it doesn't happen again, then this conversation never happened, it doesn't really matter. I just wanna let you know, like, we gotta take this stuff serious. It's money. And I expect that from everybody, okay? Is that okay? Do you understand? Is that fair of me? Awesome, thank you. Boom, done. You handle a profession like that, you're gonna be taken serious still, and you're gonna be respected at the same time.